Hello everyone. Today I figured we'd do something a little different on the channel. Soul Hackers 2. I don't know what possessed me to make this a video. I just figured I was going to do this myself casually. But I figured why not make a video about it, because you never know. So the whole premise behind this challenge obviously is using just Pixie throughout the game on hard difficulty, because I have a full-time job and I can't dedicate time to playing very hard, which disables items in fights. And maybe another time, if people are interested, I'll do very hard mode for this challenge. But for right now, I'm just going to stick with hard. I think it's a good balance between difficult and not stupid. I'm trying to mitigate grinding as much as I can in this run as well, because that's just easy and really just numbing to do. I'm not really one to grind RPGs that much anyway. I find it very tedious, and I don't have time for that kind of thing. So I'll be avoiding DLC whenever I can. I will be making exception for some equipment, but I'm not going to start putting on like XP, incense, whatever. That's kind of cheat. Obviously, it kind of goes against the whole challenge, right?
Here, so it looks like I've got a comp and a demon summoning program. This is all I need to fight back, huh? Seems simple enough.
Since Ringo is so adamant about having, Pixie being all I need to survive, that is exactly what we're going to do. That's pretty much the only reason why I was motivated to do this challenge, to be completely honest. But yeah, so I'm just gonna do like a quick rundown of like what's going on screen or whatever. I don't want to do too many spoilers or commentate over like major story bits like this. I'm pretty much just introing the run. It's gonna be a little slow at first because I have to get equipment. I have to do quests and whatnot to get strong and get through all the tutorial stuff, all that jazz. So honestly, like I'm not sure if I'm gonna make a part two of uh, of this video, because I will be doing this myself casually. I just don't know if I should like dedicate time to editing longer video like this, because I still don't have that kind of time these days. But so now that we have Arrow in our party, we get into our first tutorial fight, and it goes as expected. It's a tutorial fight. It shows you how to play the game and whatnot. Pretty much every fight in this section, except for like the boss, is a tutorial. So this area really isn't hard. The beginning part of the game won't be that bad, but once we get into mid-game and some side quests, that's when the game's going to start ramping up in difficulty, but I'm confident we'll be fine. So as of right now, this tutorial fight pretty much ends automatically, because the game just kind of gives it to you. So that's the first tutorial down. So immediately, the first problem that we have with the starting demons is their skills kind of suck. Pixie only learns Dia and dodge gunfire and starts with Zeo. Those are really low tier skills, and that's just lowballing it. Um, and Arrow's Poltergeist learns Needle Shot and Secunda, which are okay, but it's only good for the beginning part of the game. When I was deciding whether or not to do this challenge, I was thinking how I'm gonna use my teammates in battle, and I think I just settled with using their starting demons, because there's just no like special demon I can think of for them to just use without just relying on them solely. And I wanted this to be an actual challenge. I wasn't gonna give them a bunch of, really strong demons as the game progressed. I wanted to be, Pixie run, highlighting the Pixie, So, and because of that, all of my skills are going to be very limited. My damage skills are also not the greatest. My buffs and debuffs are also not that great. They will come in handy for sure, but it could be a lot better. So, that's my first problem. I don't know if I should refuse them with like a Matama fusion just to give them more skills as the game progresses. But even that is a very temporary solution. Um, so I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to go about that just yet. I'll figure that out as the game goes on. But in my book, I think it's alright if I just use them in fights. I'm using the demons in fights. As long as they're equipped for that fight, the challenge is not nulled. This is our second forced encounter of the game. There's going to be a lot of these throughout the game. I'm not going to show every single fight in the game that I go through, of course. It's just going to take too long, and I don't have the kind of time to sit through all of it. So I'm going to show you guys everything that's important, of course, including all the side quest stuff that I think is interesting anyway. That involves, the demons or Pixie, whatever. And anything important I do, I'll definitely show off. Other than that, uh, this fight is relatively simple. It's spam weakness until they go down. So right there, we learned Pixie and Poltergeist's last abilities that they learn naturally, and we also got access to Mystiques. Those are going to be helpful in our run, and I will be recruiting demons to obtain more Mystiques. For demons in your reserve actually do gain XP over time. Just, I think it's like a quarter of total XP gained or something like that. So I will be recruiting to get more Mystiques, but I won't be using them in combat. So this is RS. He's our first boss of the game. Normally the tutorial bosses always have the same element weakness as our starting demons because it makes it just a little easier, eases you into it, I think. But because of that, we're actually able to get some free damage at the end of every turn with Sabbaths, so that's great. But unfortunately, he used Rakukaja, which increases his defense, so I'm hoping to hopefully mitigate some of that with Secunda. If I'm unlucky, RS would target one party member, and he would pummel them to death with his Bicorn and himself, and that's something I can't afford to have happen, because Dia is the only way I can heal right now. I don't have many items, and I can't revive because they're so early on in the game. So I need to keep both party members alive, obviously. Since he's charging up for his attack, I block, just in case. You never know. A lot of bosses in this game do have like a wind up for really strong attacks, so cannot be taking those lightly at all. If I did block there, I most likely would have taken 90 some damage, possibly, which probably would have wiped out Era pretty bad. But since I took out the Bicorn, it makes my life just a little easier. And with that, it's just RS. He's not particularly hard, and now since we have him alone, I can just focus on healing up real quick, and then just finishing him off with flurry of attacks without having to worry. This is a strategy I normally do. I just go defensive when I know I can really get him, because once I start attacking, I don't want to stop. I want to keep that momentum. But unfortunately, I only get one Sabbath off now because Bicorn's not around anymore. So it's only going to drag out the fight for an extra turn or two. But it's alright. I mean, he's pretty much on his last legs. I'm not too worried about his special attack because I'm pretty much at full health. So all I gotta do now is basically just pick him off until he goes down.
No way.
Freeze you where you stand!
Got me. Kidding? I'm spitting gold bars. Your talk is cheaper. I'm the RS. And I don't fear no Reaper.
I'm no Reaper, but I can send you to hell. So face the music, RS, and take the L.
So now we have our other two party members to join our party, Melody and Saizo. And with that, we also unlock all the other shops in the game. So the Compsmith and Union Palace, and of course the club. And I'll pretty much be using this as a means to get stuff. Because I'm going to need the XP. Some of the items they have are actually pretty good, so I'm definitely going to go for that. And I start off doing fight requests for Yoon, and I walked into this fight with barely any MP because I completely forgot about the club. So I went into this area fighting a bunch of enemies, expecting the request to be completed, and I didn't actually accept any of it. So I forgot to heal, and I started this fight. So I made this fight a lot more difficult than I needed it to. I had pretty much had Saizo and Arrow do normal attacks, while I had Ringo heal and pick him off, and Melody was the only one that had MP. And she actually has Terracotta to start with her Meraki. So, honestly, Melody and Saizo's demons are a tad better than Ringo and Arrow's, but just a little. I am kind of stuck with two Zeo users, which proves to be a bit of an issue after. But right now, it doesn't really matter because I have no MP. So if I had MP in this fight, it would not have been so complicated. But alas, here I was. I decided against the MP item because I figured I'd just leave anyway, just to recover. Probably eat a meal so I can get some stat boosts or just like HP recovery. But otherwise, it wasn't too bad, but it could have been a lot easier. So this is the next section of the game, the Soul Matrix. Pretty much what I'll be doing is running through a big maze-like map, which gives me too much of a fucking Persona vibe there, because it's just hallways that just lead to nowhere, or just have these really long, dull. Anyway, dungeons in this game need work. I'm not here to complain about that, but yeah, not much happens here, except from some directives, ion directives I get later on. But pretty much everything that happens here is not that important, except for the fact that I learned new skills, which Fury is not that great in my opinion. But I have to see my favorite demon here, so uh, so I learned Arrow's Adept Healer skill, which helps if I find a healing demon on recon, but very situational. The meat and bones here for sure though is the risky enemies, and generally I would take these on in a casual playthrough. But the issue is, with my current setup and demons, that's not exactly feasible. From my understanding, the risky enemies change as you level up. So when I hit, I think, level 11, the enemies change, and so does your affinities with different demons and whatnot. So for risky fights, I normally take them because they have good XP, but they also drop a really good accessory. Unfortunately, I could not really damage these guys, and they can one-shot me. So that's pretty much my cue to get out and you know, not fight them. But why do that? That's a coward's way out. I figured, you know what? Let's just fight and see how long this goes on for. And to no one's surprise, I died, and it's my first game over of the run. That was the last skills I'll be learning from these demons naturally, ever. Their mystiques are actually handy for the most part, but they're not super good yet. they're only level 1. I can find like level 2 Mystiques later on when I find stronger demons, but in the meantime, that's what I'm stuck with. And I decided to change my equipment in this section because of some of the stronger enemies. This is the part in the run where I decided to actually use some DLC, but like I said, I'm still not using like the busted over the top like XP farm kind of thing because that's just not fair.
Die!
So this is Takumi Nakata. He's our second big boss of the game, and he's not particularly difficult. It's just a bit more tedious this time around because of my limited move set with all my demons. My way of damaging him is kind of small, so for the most part, I had melee attack and arrow attack until he ran out of MP. And I had Saizo mainly on support with Ringo, as they're the only two with like decent healing. Items I can't really count on because it's just there's only so many of those, and I need them for later on too. Especially some of the stronger ones like the shocker drops. But I needed one on Milady so she can keep damaging throughout the entire fight. Because if Milady ran out of magic, I'd be in trouble. He does summon Chiro some more later, which heals him, which is kind of annoying, and they do needle shots, which have a high chance of crits. So I had to be pretty careful keeping everyone at high health and damaging him fast so he wouldn't drag it out any longer than they had to. But it was still a long fight, and despite what I did, I don't think I could have made it any faster. This was my first attempt at the fight, of course, but it's still a long fight, and considering this is only the second boss, and I'm already having a hard time just dealing good, consistent damage, is kind of troublesome. So even without like comp upgrades, I'm still gonna have a pretty hard time trying to find good ways to damage consistently and fast, especially for some of those later fights, which can get really bad if you wait too long. Um, Luckily, though, they have pretty good weaknesses, especially Zio. I got pretty lucky there because I I don't think me dealing Augie throughout the entire fight would have been very effective, and I probably would have been wiped out by his Mazios. Even though I resisted, it still would have taken its toll. I only have so much MP and healing items before I run out, right? So now that I'm stuck doing physical attacks with arrow, this is when I think the fight gets near its end because it's ran out of MP, and it was. I knew I was pretty much safe as soon as his demons were gone to stop healing him, but still doesn't change the fact that I did almost no damage without it. But after a few more turns, he just goes down.
Okay, whatever.
It's strong.
Nothing I can't handle.
Ooh. Hey, miss!
So the next thing I do after leaving is get the stock optimization upgrade for Ringo, as that will come in real handy for later. What it basically does is after every attack you do, it adds one stack to your Sabbath, and since my attacks are very limited, I only have 3 elements and physical attacks, that's gonna be a pretty good damage dealer for a turn. Um, Very situational, but in the right circumstance, I feel like it can actually come in handy. And I pick up a bunch of other upgrades for my characters as I just have the materials on them from fights. And honestly, I'm gonna need as much of an edge as I need throughout the game. So I decided to tackle the DLC quests for the Lost Numbers. I know it's a pretty controversial quest line because it is pretty shitty that this would be sold to us separately. But since I already pre-ordered the game with it included, I figured I might as well include it in too. Plus, it has some pretty good secret bosses at the end of the game anyhow, so I figured why not, right? But this thing is interesting. So it does have some status ailment
attacks that I haven't actually got hit with yet, surprisingly, throughout the game. So he likes spamming poison, which is annoying for my party, considering that half of us are weak to ruin damage. So we have to end this fight pretty fast, but I got pretty lucky that his weakness is lightning. So with Ringo and Saizo picking him off pretty fast, Arrow and Melody can just buff and just finish him off as fast as possible. This fight was actually a lot easier than Taka Minikata, so honestly, it's not too bad. Plus, I have Lourdes Water to cure poison if I really needed it. But otherwise, I don't have much to say about this fight, other than the fact that I just spammed Zio throughout the entirety of this fight. It really wasn't that bad. Um, but yeah. So basically, though, I do want to add, this is pretty much as far as I got before I stopped playing to make this video. So what you're gonna see after this fight is just some like extra side stuff I think I had. But uh, as for now, and it might be a little early to say this is pretty much a one-part video, I want to say, because I actually don't know if I'm gonna make more videos like this. If you couldn't tell, and it really bugs me, my audio setup is really not that great, and I have no way to like professionally, quote unquote, record videos with a good sound. It's just a place I'm living in. I can't really do much about it, unfortunately. Um, and it bugs the shit out of me. And the fact that I'm making a video like that just doesn't sit well with me. So I'm not really a fan of this. Um, yeah, I know it's a weird spot to be saying this in the middle of a boss fight, but like I said, like this boss is stupid easy. um, but yeah, like if y'all want a part two, I'll probably think about it, but I'm not gonna prioritize doing that because I have other things to do. But yeah. Aside from that, he did hit me with a surprise like energy drain attack, which is an almighty attack. I was not expecting that when I was fighting him, but I'm covered with it from a bead. Uh, I did get one from a store, I think, or yeah, the Yin Yang Palace for like a stupid amount of like tokens that you get from like recon and such. I don't want to use too many of those because those are lifesavers. But other than that, that's pretty much the worst he does. Since he's low on HP, I figured I might as well just rush him and just finish him off ASAP before he gets out another stupid attack like Energy Drain and just drag it out a little longer. So I just went all out. I didn't bother healing this time. I just wanted to get it done and over with. So he goes down, and that is the end of this section of the DLC. There is a lot more to it, but I have to play through the story to actually unlock the next few fights and quests and such.
What was that?
Looks like it turned into some kind of doll.
Was that demon somehow different from the rest?
So I figured I would finish this video off by attempting this risky enemy. Because I got a higher level, the risky enemies actually did change to a bunch of like hairs of Inaba from the crabs. I don't know what they're called. I'm not good at names. But yeah, I'm just gonna let this play out. But I'm just leaving my closing thoughts. Honestly, so far I'm actually having a decent fun on this challenge so far. I am pretty early on in the game though, so hell, my opinion might just change on the next dungeon. um, I do have a lot of side stuff to do, and I might actually have to get some ion directives done, just so I can get some more fusions. Because I am doing this on New Game, I'm not doing New Game Plus. I would have done New Game Plus just for the extra soul points, but I think I can get to level 4 without that, so it's fine. I I think challenge-wise, it's not too bad. I have done runs in the past of like, other fucking Mega 10 games where I just use like the starting demon or persona, and it's not too bad. A lot of the older games were a lot more difficult if you try doing that, but a lot of recent Atlas games seem to have a different, I don't know, like philosophy. I don't know, like they try to make it more casual. It seems like so it's not as difficult, which is fine and all, but it makes challenges like this a little more interesting, I guess, without it being like breakneck hard, if that makes sense. Um, but yeah, I get my ass kicked. So I don't know if I'll ever actually be able to beat a risky enemy ever, but when that day comes, I'll definitely show it off. But yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It took me a few weeks to make this, so if you enjoyed it, like it. If not, it's cool.